Mercedes had their best race of the season so far in Barcelona, winning 33 points. But even with this outcome, the team wasn't that happy, and they feel like Red Bull's squad is not catchable at the moment. Still, there are some factors pointing in the other direction, and while we're not sure yet whether Mercedes are bluffing or not, the latest development of events in the Brackley-based squad indicates that we're going to see the W14 win quite a few races this year and make the season interesting. Are the Silver Arrows back, even if they don't want to admit it at this point? The 2023 season started off on the wrong foot, something that prompted a lot of bad talk and drama around the team. Hamilton called them out for not listening to him when they should have, and Wolff and Elliott agreed that the concept of the car will undergo crucial and massive changes. For you to come back and fight after being at one of the lowest points of your existence after the first race in Bahrain definitely shows what dedication and perseverance mean. But is this the final step for Mercedes? Obviously, the pace that they presented in Barcelona was a huge plus if you consider the fact that Russell started P12 but finished P3 ahead of Perez, Sainz and both Aston Martins. Yep, he did gain a bit of time after going wide in turn 1 at the opening lap, but then rejoined the track safely, and at the pace that the W14 provided on the soft and medium tyres was something outrageous. Mercedes could have easily compared their tyre degradation with Red Bull, and at a certain point of the Barcelona circuit, Russell was begging his engineer to try the one stopper so that he would have an opportunity to go for the race wins. Throughout the race, all we could hear was that the tyres were feeling good, which isn't a feature you can achieve if the aerodynamic concept of your car is not working correctly, and the wake on the tyres is much bigger than you originally anticipated. This is, let's remember, the first step towards massive upgrades, and while we were led to believe that everything is what we can see with our own eye, the side pod design, Russell believes otherwise, as the young Brit went on to add, "It's not the side pods what make the difference. It may be a factor, but the magic isn't in the side pods. We brought that design to the car to kind of rule it out, the side pods. The magic was done underneath the car, on the floor. That's the same for every single team." I'm sure Red Bull could put no side pods on their car and still be the quickest. It's a little bit more complex than that, but nevertheless, really happy with the work the team have done and the validation that the steps we've made are steps in the right direction. Who would have thought that Mercedes would turn from a team that has no aspirations to win the championship, or at least one race whatsoever, to a team that is now looking forward to closing the gap to Red Bull with massive steps? And yet again, the huge hope lies in the fact that this is just the first step towards polishing the car in the right direction. And as Wolff added, this is just the process of finding the right foundation and the right basis to work on. Everything after this will be a huge plus for Mercedes. There are a couple of factors that indicate Mercedes' recent success in the upcoming races, such as Red Bull slowing down with their development path and the Silver Arrows spending quite some time in the wind tunnel facilities as well as the CFDs. Yep, 17% may not be enough to catch around 5 to 6 tenths of a second per lap, but we've seen that Perez wasn't able to compete with Russell or Hamilton, and the tyre strategy wasn't that much different either. To have the race leader 24 seconds ahead of you, but the other driver from Red Bull being behind and not being able to bring the car in the right window speaks volumes about how the new design did exactly what it needed to do: boost the performance of the W14. Now, there are some factors that could go against Mercedes' ways, such as Aston Martin bringing the first massive upgrade package to the upcoming race in Montreal, with the initial rumour being that the floor of the AMR23 will be changed. This is definitely what Mercedes needs to fear the most, because if you compare the RB19's chassis to any other car out there, you'd see that the AMR23 has the most similar outlet that can mount nearly as similar a floor as the complex labyrinth that Newey designed for his drivers, something that will definitely put the AMR23 up front. Yet this is something that needs to be proven and tested in the wind tunnels, and in this field, Aston Martin is definitely the team that has the most luxury, as they finished tied for 7th last year with Alfa Romeo. But Mercedes' leap in Barcelona is by no means a one show, and when talking about the W14, Hamilton had nothing but praise for the setup and the entire outlook of the car. As the 7-time world champion said, "For me, that was definitely the best the car's been the past year and a half. So that's kudos to the amazing group of people we have back at the factory who continue to work hard and push the car forward." Wolf has added to these comments too, saying that right now the W13's massive issues, such as the floor and front wings, have been upgraded, and the team is definitely in a position to fight for the championship. True, they're still far behind Verstappen, who finished 24 seconds ahead of them in Barcelona, but one bird does not bring the spring to your door, and with the continuous upgrade of their performance, Mercedes may be in the running for the Constructors' Championship after all. Once the season starts to progress further down the line, the 17% extra wind tunnel time will definitely be used to make the car even more efficient, so the P2 spot in the Constructors' Championship might not even be in the bigger picture of Mercedes. It is true that Hamilton pointed out towards the end of the season or the beginning of next year's campaign to fight with the Bulls. But if you think about it, Mercedes thought that they wouldn't stand a chance of fighting with Aston Martin or Ferrari in Barcelona, and look how that came out. And there is another issue that we need to address right now: the tracks that the F1 calendar has yet to visit. With the high downforce requirements of circuits like Montreal and the medium level of downforce that Spa requires from the 2023 cars, Mercedes upgrades will definitely see them fighting for the front row and the highest place on the podium more often than not. Yep, Red Bull and Aston Martin have shown that they are the teams to beat in this manner, but when you think about it, Barcelona was the real test of whether or not a car has the potential to win the championship in any category. The Spanish GP is often the one that shows if a car can withstand the pressure on the tyres, and the entirety of the car with the mixture of medium and high-speed corners. So with not many tracks out there that have the outlet of Baku and Monaco, tracks that seemed to be painfully slow and excruciating for the W14, the hope that we'll see Mercedes performing very decently in 2023 stands as it is. And we must not forget that while Red Bull is not bothered by the fact that everyone was able to see the uniqueness of their floor, this is definitely something that Mercedes will utilise in their own direction. James Allison has spoken about this matter, and the old-new CTO of the team added that Mercedes will draw a lot of inspiration from those photos in Monaco. So if they're able to fix the latest missing piece of the puzzle, called a good functioning car in 2023, then the entire grid is in trouble. As Russell said, the Silver Arrows ticked all the boxes that they'd set to be ticked before the Spanish GP, and with Red Bull losing crucial technical staff to their rivals, we might not be stripped away from a competitive and interesting season ahead of us. What we are still yet to find out, though, is whether Mercedes will utilise the extra wind tunnel time and raise the competitiveness of their car to the next level, which is to fight for wins. It might be difficult to think so right now, but then cutting 2 to 3 tenths of a second's worth of performance from the RB19 just goes to show that the battle is on. It's still very early to allude to anything that can happen in the next races, but one thing is for sure: Mercedes' competitiveness is back, and we might see one of the two Brits standing on the highest place of the podium as soon as Montreal.